I never thought I'd end up here, alone in a hospital room, 3 days after open-heart surgery, staring at my phone and realizing my son had blocked my number. The nurse had just told me I was being discharged in 2 hours, and I had no one to pick me up. No money for a cab. My apartment was 40 miles away in a neighborhood I could barely afford. I was 64 years old, and for the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to be truly abandoned. Let me back up. My name is Thomas Reeves. For 37 years, I was a postal carrier in Columbus, Ohio. Rain, snow, heat waves that melted the asphalt under my feet. I walked those routes until my knees gave out and my back couldn't take it anymore. I retired at 62 with a pension that barely covered rent and groceries. But I was proud. I'd raised my son Marcus alone after my wife died when he was 7. I worked double shifts, skipped meals, wore the same jacket for 15 years, all to give Marcus opportunities I never had. And it worked. Marcus got into Ohio State, then law school, then landed a job at one of those big corporate firms in downtown Columbus, the kind with marble lobbies and espresso machines that cost more than my monthly pension. He married Vanessa, a woman who introduced herself as a lifestyle consultant, which, as far as I could tell, meant she spent other people's money on things nobody needed. They lived in a house in Upper Arlington with more bathrooms than I had rooms in my entire apartment. I was happy for him. Proud, even. Sure, the visits became less frequent. Birthday calls got shorter. Christmas became a text message, with a gift card to a restaurant I couldn't afford to eat at, even with the $50 on it. But he was busy. Successful. That's what I told myself. Then came the chest pains. At first, I ignored them. Old age, I thought. Stress from trying to figure out how to pay for the leak in my bathroom ceiling. But one Tuesday morning, I collapsed in the parking lot of my building. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, found me and called 911. The doctors said it was serious. Triple bypass surgery. I'd need it within a week or I might not make it to 65. The surgery alone was $30,000. My Medicare would cover most of it, but not everything. And I'd need somewhere to recover. Someone to help me for at least 2 weeks. I called Marcus. It took him 6 hours to call back. When he did, there was noise in the background. Voices. Laughter. He was at some kind of event. "Dad, this is really bad timing," he said. I could barely hear him over the music. "Vanessa and I are at a charity gala. Can I call you tomorrow?" "Marcus, I'm in the hospital. They're saying I need heart surgery." The background noise became muffled. He must have stepped outside. "What? When?" "They want to do it Friday." "I'm scared, son. I need you to be here." There was a pause. A long one. "Friday?" "Dad, I have a deposition Friday. It's been scheduled for months. I can't just—" "Marcus, please. I might die." Another pause. "You're not going to die, Dad. You're tough. You raised me, didn't you? Look, I'll try to visit over the weekend. After the surgery. Okay?" He didn't visit that weekend. Or the next. He sent a text the day of my surgery. "Good luck, Dad. You've got this." That was it. No call, no visit, nothing. The surgery was terrifying. They cracked open my chest, rerouted my blood vessels, and when I woke up I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. The pain was everywhere. But worse than the physical pain was the emptiness. I was in a recovery room with 3 other patients, all of them with families crowded around their beds, wives holding hands, children bringing flowers, grandchildren showing off report cards. My bed had no one, just machines beeping and a window that looked out at the parking garage. On the 3rd day, a nurse came in. Her name was Patricia. She was one of those nurses who'd seen everything and had no patience for nonsense. She'd been checking on me regularly, and I think she'd noticed I never had visitors. "Mr. Reeves," she said, reading my chart, "you're being discharged this afternoon. We need to know who's picking you up and what your home care situation looks like." "I'll figure it out," I said. She looked at me over her reading glasses. "You just had open heart surgery. You can't drive. You can't lift anything over 5 pounds. You can't climb stairs without help. You need someone at home with you for at least a week." "I'll manage." "Mr. Reeves, this isn't optional. Hospital policy. We can't discharge you without a care plan." "Then I'll call a cab. My apartment's on the 1st floor. I'll be fine." Patricia Seehiv. "Do you have anyone? Family? Friends. I thought about lying. But what was the point? My son. But he's busy. She didn't say anything. She'd heard that before, I'm sure. I'll see what I can do. Give me an hour. I lay there feeling humiliated. 64 years old, and I couldn't even arrange a ride home from the hospital. I'd spent my entire life being self-sufficient, never asking anyone for help, and now I was completely helpless. I thought about calling Marcus again, but my pride wouldn't let me. If my own son couldn't be bothered to check on me after major surgery, I wasn't going to beg. That's when Dr. Morrison walked in. I'd met him briefly before the surgery. He was the cardiac surgeon who'd performed the operation. Late 60s, silver hair, the kind of presence that made you feel calmer just by being in the room. He usually had residents trailing behind him, but today he was alone. "Mr. Reeves," he said, pulling up a chair next to my bed. "How are you feeling?" "Like someone cracked open my chest," I said. He smiled slightly. "That's accurate. I did crack open your chest, and I put it back together quite nicely, if I do say so myself." He picked up my chart, scanned it, then set it down. "Patricia tells me you're having trouble arranging a ride home. I'll figure something out. She also tells me you live alone, 40 miles from here. No family support." I said I'll figure it out. Dr. Morrison was quiet for a moment. He had this way of looking at you like he could see right through whatever you were trying to hide. "Mr. Reeves, I'm going to be direct with you. You cannot go home alone. Not yet. You need someone checking on you, helping with medications, making sure you're eating properly, watching for signs of infection or complications. Without that, you have a significant risk of readmission, or worse. What do you suggest?" "I can't afford a nursing facility. My pension barely covers rent." He leaned back in his chair. "I have a suggestion. It's unconventional, but hear me out." He paused, as if choosing his words carefully. "I have a large house. More space than I know what to do with since my wife passed. I also have a full-time nurse on staff for my own health needs. What if you stayed with me for the next 2 weeks? Just until you're stable enough to manage on your own." I stared at him. "I'm sorry." "What?" "You'd have your own room, proper care, meals, everything you need to recover safely." "Dr. Morrison, I can't. That's not why would you even offer that?" He stood up and walked to the window, hands in the pockets of his white coat. "Let me ask you something. Do you remember working the Riverside route about 35 years ago?" I was confused by the change in subject. I worked that route for almost 10 years. "Why?" "There was an apartment building on Maple Street, 4 stories, red brick. You remember it?" "Sure. Building 447. What about it?" He turned to face me. "January 1989. Coldest winter in 20 years. There was a young medical student living on the 3rd floor, poor as dirt, working nights at a gas station to pay tuition. One day, he found an envelope in his mailbox. No return address. Inside was $500 in cash and a note that said, 'Keep going. Someone believes in you.'" My chest tightened, and it had nothing to do with the surgery. That was 35 years ago. "How do you—" "I was that medical student, Mr. Reeves. That $500 paid for my anatomy textbooks and a month of groceries. More importantly, it came at a moment when I was ready to quit. I was exhausted, broke, and starting to think I'd made a terrible mistake trying to become a doctor. That money, that note, it kept me going. I didn't know what to say. I'd done that a few times over the years. When I saw someone struggling, really struggling, I'd scrape together what I could and leave it for them. I never wanted credit, never told anyone. I'd forgotten about most of them." "I never forgot that kindness," Dr. Morrison continued. "I didn't know who sent it until 2 weeks ago when I was reviewing your file before surgery. I saw your name and remembered. Thomas Reeves, postal carrier, Riverside route. I went through my old journals. Yes, I keep journals and confirmed it. Same name, same building. You didn't have to remember that, but I did. And when Patricia told me you had no one, no way home, I saw an opportunity to repay a 35-year-old debt. It wasn't a debt. I didn't do it for payback. I know, but I'm offering anyway. 2 weeks. Let me help you recover. Consider it one act of kindness, repaying another. I wanted to say no. Pride is a funny thing. Even when you're desperate, it makes you want to refuse help. But I was tired, so tired. And the thought of struggling alone in my apartment, trying to change bandages I couldn't reach, climbing stairs I could barely manage, it terrified me. "Okay," I said quietly. "Thank you." Dr. Morrison smiled. "Good. I'll make the arrangements. We'll move you this afternoon. And, Mr. Reeves? Call me James. We're past the doctor-patient formality now." That afternoon, James's driver, an older gentleman named Robert, picked me up in a Mercedes that was probably worth more than I'd earned in my entire career. The drive to James's house took about 20 minutes. We went through neighborhoods I'd only seen on television, tree-lined streets, houses set back from the road, gates and circular driveways. James's house wasn't just big, it was a mansion. 3 stories, stone and brick facade, gardens that looked like they required a full-time staff. Robert helped me inside, where a nurse named Helen was waiting. She was professional but warm, showing me to a guest room on the first floor that was larger than my entire apartment. "Dr. Morrison thought you'd be more comfortable down here," Helen explained. "No stairs. Bathroom right through that door. I'm just down the hall if you need anything. I'll be checking on you 3 times a day and managing your medications." The room had a fireplace, in a guest room. There was a reading chair by the window, a television, and a bed that looked like something from a fancy hotel. I sat down on the edge of the bed, and it was so soft I thought I might sink through to the floor. James appeared in the doorway. "Everything all right?" "This is too much," I said. "I can't. It's a room I'm not using. Consider it yours for the next 2 weeks. Now rest. Dinner is at 6. Helen will come get you, or if you're too tired, she'll bring it here." That first night, I couldn't sleep, partially because of the pain, partially because I was in a stranger's house, even if that stranger had good reasons for helping me, but mostly because I kept thinking about Marcus, my son, the boy I'd raised alone, who couldn't even be bothered to visit me in the hospital, who had blocked my number when I tried to call him the day before. Around midnight, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Then, a soft knock. "Come in," I said. James entered, wearing a bathrobe and reading glasses. "Saw your light was on. Can't sleep?" "Pain's not too bad. Just thinking." He sat in the reading chair. "About your son? How did you—" "Patricia mentioned it. I'm sorry. I know that particular pain, not from a child, but from people you expect to be there who simply aren't. I don't understand it. I gave him everything, worked myself half to death to make sure he had opportunities, and now that I need him, he's just gone." James was quiet for a moment. "Can I tell you something about my career? In 30-plus years as a cardiac surgeon, I've seen thousands of patients. The ones who recover best aren't always the ones with the most money or the best insurance. They're the ones with people who show up, who sit by their beds, who ask questions, who care. The body heals better when the heart isn't broken." "My heart's literally broken," I said, trying to make a joke. "And we fixed the physical part, but the other kind of heartbreak that takes longer. And sometimes, Mr. Reeves, the people who are supposed to love us aren't capable of it. Not because we failed them, but because they've lost something along the way. Something essential. I must have done something wrong. Parents are supposed to raise children who care. You know what I think? I think you raised a son who succeeded professionally. And somewhere in that success, he forgot where he came from. He forgot the sacrifices. Or maybe he convinced himself they weren't as significant as they were. That's on him, not you." We talked until almost 2 in the morning. James told me about his career, his late wife Margaret, who died of cancer 5 years earlier, his own estrangement from his sister, who'd only shown up after Margaret's death to ask about inheritance. I told him about my wife Sarah, about raising Marcus alone, about the small moments I'd been proud of that now felt hollow. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange blur of recovery and kindness. Helen checked on me like clockwork, managed my medications, helped me with things I couldn't do myself. Robert drove me to follow-up appointments with James. There was a cook, Maria, who made meals that tasted like actual food, not the frozen dinners I'd been living on for years. But beyond the medical care and the comfortable room, there was something else. Companionship. James would stop by my room every evening after he got home from the hospital. We'd talk about everything. Books, politics, stupid television shows, our regrets and hopes. He introduced me to his friends who'd stop by other doctors, retired colleagues, people who treated me like I belonged there. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen, valued, like my presence mattered. 10 days into my stay, Marcus finally called. Helen knocked on my door during lunch. "Mr. Reeves, you have a call. Your son." My hands shook as I took the phone. "Marcus?" "Hey, Dad." His voice was casual. Too casual. "Sorry I haven't checked in. Work's been crazy. How are you feeling?" "I'm recovering. I had major surgery, Marcus. Where have you been?" "I told you. Work. Look, I'm calling because Vanessa and I want to come visit. See how you're doing. Maybe this Sunday?" Something in his tone felt off. "How did you get this number?" "I called the hospital. They transferred me." "Dad, where are you? Why aren't you at home?" I hesitated. "I'm staying with a friend during recovery." "What friend?" "You don't have friends with." He stopped himself, but the implication was clear. You don't have friends with money. A friend who actually showed up when I needed help. There was a pause. "Dad, don't be dramatic. I was busy. You're fine, right? So what's the big deal?" "The big deal." My son was asking what the big deal was about abandoning his father after open-heart surgery. "The address is 4782 Lakeshore Drive," I said quietly. "Sunday at 2. "Lakeshore? That's Dad. Whose house are you at?" "I'll see you Sunday, Marcus." I hung up before he could ask more questions. My hands were shaking. James appeared in the doorway. He'd been in his study, but must have heard. "Your son?" he asked. I nodded. "He wants to visit Sunday. First time he's checked on me since the surgery." James sat down. "Let me guess. He suddenly became available when he found out where you're staying?" "How did you know?" "Because I've seen it before. People who disappear during the crisis suddenly reappear when they think there's something to gain." He paused. "Thomas, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it." My stomach dropped. "What?" "I had my attorney do some checking. Your son, Marcus. He's in financial trouble. Serious trouble. His firm has been losing major clients. He took out a second mortgage on his house to maintain appearances. His wife's spending is out of control. They're leveraged to the point where one missed payment could collapse everything." "Why would you?" "Because I wanted to know who had abandoned my patient, my friend, and what I found concerned me. Thomas, I think your son is coming Sunday because someone told him you're staying at the home of Dr. James Morrison, chief of cardiology, one of the wealthiest doctors in the state." The implications hit me like a punch. "You think he's after money?" "I think he's desperate. And desperate people make calculated choices. He's my son. He wouldn't." "I hope you're right. But I've arranged for my attorney to be here Sunday, just in case. If I'm wrong, he'll stay out of sight. But if I'm right," he trailed off. Sunday came. I was nervous. Part of me wanted to believe Marcus was genuinely concerned, that he'd rushed over as soon as he could, that he was still the boy who'd hugged me tight when he graduated high school and whispered, "Thank you, Dad, for everything." The doorbell rang at exactly 2 o'clock. Robert answered it. I heard Marcus's voice in the foyer, too loud, too cheerful. "Wow, this is quite a place." Dad didn't mention he was staying somewhere, so he appeared in the living room doorway and stopped. I was sitting in one of James's leather chairs. James stood next to the fireplace. Marcus's expression cycled through surprise, recognition, and then something else. "Calculation." "Dr. Morrison?" Marcus said. "From Columbus General?" "Marcus Reeves," James said. "I've heard a lot about you." Vanessa appeared behind Marcus. She was dressed like she was going to a country club. Her eyes swept the room, taking in the artwork, the antiques, the obvious wealth. "Oh my God," she whispered to Marcus. "This is Dr. Morrison?" "The doctor." "Morrison?" Marcus recovered quickly. He walked over and shook James's hand too vigorously. "Dr. Morrison, I can't thank you enough for taking care of my father. When Dad called and said he was staying with a friend, I had no idea. This is incredible." Above and beyond. Your father and I go back many years, James said evenly. We do? I said, confused. James smiled at me. Remember that envelope, Thomas? 1,989? We go back to then. Marcus looked between us. Envelope? Dad, what's he talking about? Before I could answer, Vanessa had made herself comfortable on the sofa. This home is absolutely beautiful. You must have a wonderful decorator. My late wife, Margaret, James said. She had excellent taste. Oh, I'm so sorry, Vanessa said, though her tone suggested she was anything but. It must be lonely in a house this size. Just you and the staff? I manage. Marcus sat down next to me. His hand landed on my shoulder. It was the first time he'd touched me in over a year. Dad, you're looking good. Really good. Much better than I expected. No thanks to you, I said quietly. His hand tightened on my shoulder. A warning. Dad, come on, I explained. I was slammed with work, but I'm here now. 10 days late. Better late than never, right? He laughed, but it was hollow. Look, I'm glad you're in such good hands. Dr. Morrison, Dad's really lucky to have a friend like you. I'm the lucky one, James said. Your father changed my life 35 years ago. I'm simply repaying a debt. A debt? Marcus leaned forward. Interest sparked in his eyes. What kind of debt? James explained the story. The money in the mailbox. The note. How it had kept him going through medical school. As he talked, I watched Marcus's face. He wasn't listening like a son hearing about his father's quiet acts of kindness. He was listening like a lawyer evaluating an asset. When James finished, Marcus shook his head in wonder. Dad, I had no idea you did things like that. That's really something. Your father is a remarkable man, James said. Which is why, when he needed help and his family wasn't there, I wanted to make sure he was taken care of. The word family hung in the air like an accusation. Marcus flinched. Vanessa, oblivious, was examining a vase on the side table. Are these Ming Dynasty? She asked. Dynasty replicas, James said. The real ones are in the vault. Vanessa's eyes lit up. You have a vault? Before James could respond, Marcus stood up. Dr. Morrison, could I speak with you privately? About Dad's care plan? James glanced at me. I nodded. They left the room. Vanessa immediately pulled out her phone and started taking photos of the living room. Vanessa, what are you doing? Are you kidding? Do you know who Dr. Morrison is? He's on the board of 3 hospitals. He owns medical buildings all over the state. Thomas, your dad is staying with someone worth hundreds of millions. So? Thomas, this is an opportunity. Your dad helped him 35 years ago. That creates a relationship, a connection. Do you know what we could do with a connection like that? He's my father's friend, not a business opportunity. Everything's a business opportunity if you approach it right. She put her phone away and straightened her dress. When they come back, let me do some talking. In James's study, Marcus closed the door. Dr. Morrison, I want to be direct with you. I know my father can be proud, stubborn. He probably hasn't told you, but he's not doing well financially. His pension barely covers rent. He's got medical bills from this surgery that'll bury him. I'm aware, James said, settling behind his desk. Right, so here's what I'm thinking. You clearly care about my dad. You've got this big house. What if he stayed here? Not just for recovery. Permanently. You get companionship. He gets security. Everyone wins. James steepled his fingers. Interesting proposal. What about you? What about me? Where do you fit in this arrangement? Marcus hesitated. Well, I'm his son. Obviously, I'd need to be involved in any major decisions, power of attorney, that kind of thing, to protect Dad's interests. His interests? Or yours? I don't appreciate what you're implying. I'm not implying anything, Marcus. I'm stating it directly. You disappeared when your father needed you most. Now you're back, proposing an arrangement that would give you legal control over his affairs. An arrangement that would position you as the intermediary between your father and a wealthy man. Marcus's face reddened. You don't know anything about my relationship with my father. I know he called you from the hospital, terrified, facing major surgery. And you were at a charity gala. I know he spent 3 days post-surgery with no visitors while your bed had flowers from people who barely knew you. I know he couldn't even get a ride home because his son blocked his number. He told you that? He didn't have to. I had my attorney look into it. I also know about your financial situation, the firm's troubles, the second mortgage, your wife's spending habits. Should I continue? Marcus stood up. You had no right. I had every right to protect my friend. Sit down, Marcus. Something in James's tone made Marcus sit. James opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. I'm going to make you an offer, one time. After this, the conversation is over. He slid the folder across the desk. That's a check for $50,000. It'll cover your immediate debts. Buy you some breathing room. Marcus opened the folder. His hands trembled as he saw the check. There are conditions, James continued. First, this money is for you, not your wife, not for maintaining a lifestyle you can't afford, for genuine necessities. Second, you will repair your relationship with your father, not because he's staying with a wealthy man, because he's your father. Third, you will never ever ask him or me for money again. This is a one-time bailout based on your father's kindness to me, not your worthiness. Understood? Marcus stared at the check. Why would you do this? Because your father would want me to help you. Even after everything, he still loves you. I'm doing this for him, not you. And if I don't accept the conditions, then you leave here with nothing. And I'll make sure your firm knows exactly why you suddenly have an interest in your father's welfare. I know 3 senior partners at your firm personally. I'm sure they'd be interested to hear how you've been spending your time. Marcus's face went white. He looked at the check, then at James, then back at the check. Finally, he folded the folder and stood up. I need to think about it. You have until you walk out that door. After that, the offer expires. They returned to the living room. Marcus's face was unreadable. Vanessa immediately jumped up. Well, what did you two talk about? Nothing important, Marcus said. He looked at me. Dad, can we talk? Alone? We went out to the garden. It was a beautiful afternoon, warm for March. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Dad, I'm sorry, he finally said. For what specifically? For not being there. For the hospital. For not visiting. He trailed off. For everything. Why weren't you there, Marcus? Really? He sat down on a stone bench. Because I was ashamed. Of what? Of failing. Dad, I'm not the success you think I am. The firm's struggling. I made bad investments. Vanessa spends money faster than I can make it. We're drowning in debt. And I couldn't face you. The man who sacrificed everything for me. I couldn't look you in the eye and admit I'd screwed it all up. So you just disappeared? I know. It was cowardly. I told myself I'd visit after I got things under control. But things never got under control. They got worse. And then when I found out where you were staying, I thought. He stopped. You thought you could use me. Use my connection to James. He nodded, not meeting my eyes. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. And Dr. Morrison just offered me money to help with my debts. $50,000. Are you going to take it? I don't know. The conditions are, they're fair. But they're hard. He wants me to fix our relationship. To actually be your son again. Not just when it's convenient. And you don't think you can do that? I don't know if I deserve to. I abandoned you, Dad. When you needed me most. I sat down next to him. My chest hurt, but not from the surgery. Marcus, I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone. When your mother died, I didn't think I could go on. Every day felt impossible, but I had you. And I made a choice. I could wallow in my grief, or I could be the father you needed. So I chose you. Every single day, I chose you. I know. That's what makes this so much worse. Let me finish. I chose you. And I'd do it again. Every time. Because that's what love is. It's choosing someone even when it's hard. Even when they disappoint you. Even when they fail. I looked at him. You failed me, Marcus. You hurt me more than I knew I could be hurt. But you're still my son. And if you want to repair this, if you want to actually try, not because James is making you, But because you want to, then I'm here. Marcus started crying, real tears, not the polite social ones. He put his head in his hands. I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I put my arm around him, careful of my healing chest. I know. Now what are you going to do about it? Marcus took James's offer. He and Vanessa left an hour later. At the door, Marcus hugged me carefully. I'll call you tomorrow. A real call. Is that okay? That's okay. After they left, James found me in the garden. How are you feeling? Honestly, I don't know. Hopeful? Scared? Both? Both is appropriate. Thomas, I need to tell you something. That money I gave Marcus, it came with another condition I didn't mention. What? The check won't clear for 6 months. If he doesn't follow through on repairing your relationship, if he goes back to ignoring you, the check bounces. He'll have spent 6 months thinking he had a safety net, only to discover he never did. I stared at him. That's ruthless. That's accountability. I meant what I said. I did it for you, not him. If he wants the money, he earns it by being a son. If he can't do that, he doesn't deserve help. What if he finds out? Then he learns another lesson about consequences. James smiled. But I think he'll follow through. I saw something in his eyes when you two talked. Regret. Real regret. That's a starting point. Over the next 3 months, Marcus called me every Tuesday and Thursday. At first, the conversations were awkward, stilted. We didn't know how to talk to each other anymore. But slowly, it got easier. He told me about his work, but also about his fears. About therapy he'd started. About conversations with Vanessa about their spending and priorities. And he visited. Every other Sunday, he'd drive to James's house. Sometimes Vanessa came. Sometimes just him. We'd have lunch, talk, go for slow walks in the garden. James and I had fallen into a comfortable routine. I'd officially stayed past my 2-week recovery. Then a month. Then 2. One evening, James asked if I'd consider staying permanently. Thomas, I have more space than I need and more money than I can spend. You have companionship to offer and a lifetime of stories I want to hear. Why not make this official? Official how? Stay. Live here. Not as a guest. As family. James, I can't. Before you say no, think about it. You'd have your own space. No financial worries. Access to the best medical care. Most importantly, you'd have someone who actually wants you around. And I'd have the same. We've both been alone too long. I thought about my apartment. The leaky ceiling. The thin walls. The loneliness that seeped into every corner. Then I thought about the last 2 months. Conversations over breakfast. Watching old movies together. Having someone to talk to about books and ideas and life. Okay, I said. On one condition, I pay rent. Don't be ridiculous. I'm serious. Not market rate. But something. I need to contribute. I can afford $300 a month from my pension. James laughed. Thomas, my property taxes are more than your annual pension. $300 a month, or I'm not staying. He sighed. You're the most stubborn man I've ever met. Fine. $300 a month. I'll donate it to charity in your name. 6 months after Marcus took James's check, I got a call from James's attorney. Mr. Reeves, I wanted to inform you that Marcus's check cleared today. All conditions were met. Marcus had done it. For 6 months, he'd showed up, been present, tried. And he didn't know the check had been contingent on that behavior. He'd done it because he wanted to, not because he had to. That Sunday, when Marcus arrived for lunch, I told him, You knew? He asked, stunned. You knew the whole time? James told me after you left that first day. And you didn't say anything? Would it have mattered? Would you have behaved differently? He thought about it. Honestly, probably not. I needed to do this. For me. For us. He paused. Dad, Vanessa and I are making changes. Real changes. We sold the house in Upper Arlington. Got something smaller. More manageable. She's actually working now. As an actual consultant, not a lifestyle one. We're in couples therapy. It's hard. But it's good. I'm proud of you. Don't be. Not yet. I'm just trying to be the son you deserved all along. A year after my surgery, James and I were having breakfast when he said, I need to tell you something. I'm revising my will. I set down my coffee. James, no. We've talked about this. Hear me out. I have distant relatives who I barely know. They'll get trust funds. But the bulk of my estate, the house, the medical buildings, the investments I'm leaving to you, absolutely not. That's insane. It's my choice. Thomas, you saved my life 35 years ago with $500 and a note. You didn't know you were doing it, but you did. Now I've gotten to spend this last year with you, sharing my home with someone who genuinely cares, who asks how my day was, who watches terrible television with me and argues about plot holes, who makes me laugh. You've given me something I thought I'd lost when Margaret died. Family, I don't want your money, James. Good, because I'm not leaving it to you for the money. I'm leaving it to you because you'll use it the way it should be used. You'll help people, quietly, the way you always have. Some postal worker somewhere will find an envelope in their mailbox with enough money to change their life. And they'll never know it came from you. I started crying. You're not dying, are you? Is there something you're not telling me? I'm 71 with a pacemaker. I'm not dying tomorrow, but I'm not going to live forever either. And I want to know that everything I've built will go to someone who understands what really matters. James lived another 8 years. Good years. He retired from surgery but stayed on as a consultant. We traveled places I'd never dreamed of seeing. Europe, Japan, Australia. We hosted Marcus and Vanessa for holidays. We watched as they had a daughter they named Sarah, after my late wife. When James finally passed, peacefully in his sleep at 79, it felt like losing a brother. The funeral was enormous. Hundreds of former patients, colleagues, friends. Marcus stood next to me throughout. At one point, he whispered, "He changed both our lives, didn't he?" Yeah, he did. The will reading was simple. James had left generous trust funds to his nieces and nephews, donations to medical charities, and everything else, the house, the medical buildings, the investments to me. The total value was staggering. More money than I'd earn in 100 lifetimes. James's attorney handed me an envelope. Dr. Morrison asked me to give you this when the time came. I opened it. Inside was a note in James's handwriting. Thomas, 35 years ago, you gave me $500 and a note that said, "Someone believes in you." You'll never know how many times I reread that note during hard days. How many times it kept me going. I'm leaving you everything because I believe in you. I believe you'll use this wealth the way I tried to help people, to make a difference, to be kind when no one's watching. But more than that, I'm leaving it to you because you taught me something important. Family isn't about blood. It's about showing up. It's about choosing someone every day. It's about sitting with them in hospital rooms and garden benches and breakfast tables. You showed up for me when I needed it most. You chose me. And these last 8 years have been the best of my life. Use the money well, help people, and every now and then leave an envelope in someone's mailbox. Some medical student somewhere is struggling. Be their miracle. With love and gratitude, James. I stood there in the attorney's office, crying, holding this note from a man who'd become my brother. Marcus put his hand on my shoulder. You okay, Dad? Yeah, I said. I'm okay. I still live in James's house. My house now, though it'll never feel like mine. Marcus visits every Sunday with Sarah. She calls me Grandpa Tom and asks me to tell her stories about Great Uncle James. I've set up a foundation in James's name. It provides grants to medical students from difficult backgrounds. Every student who receives a grant also receives an envelope. Inside is a note that says, "Someone believes in you. Keep going." I've left anonymous envelopes in mailboxes all over the city, usually $500, sometimes more. I'll never know whose lives they change, but I hope, somewhere, someone is holding one of those notes at their darkest moment and finding reason to continue. Because that's what James taught me. That's what my wife Sarah taught me. That's what I'm finally teaching Marcus. We save each other, not with grand gestures or public declarations, but with small acts of kindness when no one's watching, with showing up when it's inconvenient, with choosing someone every day, even when it's hard. My son almost lost me, but he found me again. And in finding me, he found himself. I almost lost everything, but I found something better, a brother, a family, a purpose. All because I collapsed in a parking lot and a cardiac surgeon recognized my name from an envelope he received 35 years ago. Life is strange that way. The smallest kindnesses echo across decades. The people you save might save you back. And family, real family, is built not from blood, but from choice. Every single day, we choose. And that makes all the difference.